And hello, Paul. Hello, Roberta. Hello, Ken. Hello, Jim. We're missing George.
All right, I think so. We're just still missing George. I'm gonna go back to my
I'll wait a minute. You know, we usually wait.
Yep. I'm gonna turn my video off so more of you can be on the screen. I will be here to assist you with raised hand icons and any timing features that you need. All right. Okay. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
All right.
George.
Your connection's a little wonky there, Jim. I'm letting. All right, so George is coming into the room. Tim, your connection is a little tough there. We're not quite picking up what you're saying. Okay, wait, are you there, Tim?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Okay.
I'd like to wait just a few minutes for George.
All right, George is just now in the room. Everybody, remember when you come into the
thing. I guess I can read the.
Yeah, just remember, everybody, when you come in, you're automatically on mute. So when you're ready to talk, just make sure you unmute yourselves. All right, and I'm going to go mute myself. Tim, you're also on mute.
Okay.
Shut out.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
There you go. There's George.
Thank you.
Jim?
Good evening. Good evening, Tim. Good evening,
Good
everybody.
Okay, we're all here. Good evening. I'm going to be standard here until first declaration of Harper's Ferry eventually via Zoom webinar, which provides for public participation during a public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may.
Hey, Tim. Tim, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. I am
stream. I just lost you.
Yeah, we're really struggling with your connection. Is everybody else experiencing the same thing I am?
I'm experiencing the same thing.
Okay, everybody's struggling with your internet connection, Tim. It's very intermittent and your voice is fading in and out.
Tim, if you disable your camera, it might help.
Oh, that's a good point. Try that.
Me?
Yeah.
I feel I can hear myself perfectly, and
Well,
I can hear everybody else. It's you, Deb, that.
Okay, I heard you say it's you, Deb, and I didn't hear anything else. And we didn't hear any of the.
I stopped. Yeah, I just stopped.
Okay, well, we did. I mean, I'm, if it's only me that's having trouble hearing Tim, fine, but I didn't hear any of the prelude.
Okay. Roberta, can you hear me okay?
No.
No.
She's shaking her head no. Ken is shaking his head no.
It's everybody.
Well, I don't know what to do.
If you turn your camera off, disable your video, it might help.
Turn the camera off.
Turn your video off. It might
Okay.
assist because you won't be requiring so much bandwidth.
All
Click
right.
on stop video.
Right.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
So far, so good.
Now. George can hear you.
You can hear me.
Yes, I can, Tim.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes me wonder, though, if I have to put, pardon? If I have to share the screen, and I want to show something, Deb, does that mean
I don't know, Tim. I mean, is anybody else still having a signal problem?
okay, well,
Everybody is still struggling to hear you.
I'm still struggling to hear Tim.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
okay.
Is there maybe a different spot in your house where the
I
Wi-Fi might
don't.
be a little stronger?
Hang on, let me see. I mean, I haven't had trouble. I've been teaching from Zoom here, so let me see. Hang on.
Okay. Could we just go around the panel and just say hello so I can make sure that it's not my connection? I don't think it is, but
Hello, this is Ken Dill. Can you hear me?
okay, that's nice, loud and clear. How about you, Paul?
Hey, good evening. Hope everybody's doing well.
Okay, Roberta?
Evening, testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's good. Little fuzzy, but it's good. All right, and George was good. All right, so, okay. All right,
I
thank
just
you.
unmuted myself. Is that?
Ooh,
can
that
you-
sounds a lot better.
Okay, I'll try. Let's
Okay,
give it a go. The other thing that occurred to me is if it doesn't work, I could call in by telephone or something. I don't know. Anyway. All right. So I'm in the midst of reading the prelude here. I think I got to this sentence. So alternately, the public may watch meetings to YouTube, a video live stream, or listen to by telephone. These options comply with the Open Government Meetings Act. The Zoom webinar link to participate in town meetings and/or hearings can be found on the meeting and events calendar at the address and visit the address information PDF for further information on how to view and participate in the town's virtual meetings and/or hearings. Now, I just realized that there's an additional part that I need to read to you about the inclusion of public comments, which we included in the amended agenda. I don't have the exact statement here, but it's a statement to the effect that we have a public comments section. And but I think that Deb, is that right? That nobody
Yeah,
signed up?
sure, I'll read it for you. And
yeah,
yes,
thank
no
you.
one did call in. If you would like to make public comment on the agenda items posted below, please email clerk@harpersferrywv.us by 10 a.m. Tuesday, September 21, 2021, in order to receive an invitation to the Zoom meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and topics are limited to agenda items only. And there were no submissions for public comment, so you will not need to, work with that this time.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. President Tim Weiscarver, Secretary Roberta Meade Curry, Mr. Ken Dill, Mr. George Owens, Mr. Jim Jenkins, and Mr. Paul Mayhew. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
You're muted, Paul. Thanks.
Yes,
There
I
you
approve.
You move to approve?
Yes.
I second it. Do we need to talk about this or can we get a vote?
I had a question, Tim, if I could. This is
This
George
is
Owens.
discussion. We're
Just
now talking about the approval of the agenda. Does this have to do with the approval of the agenda?
Yes, it does, Tim.
All right,
Can you clarify something for me?
it depends. What do you need
Okay.
clarified,
Here's the
Mr. Owens?
clarification. Under item 3,
Yes,
new business,
yes,
item A,
yes,
minutes, it says
Yes.
discussion only.
that's correct.
Does that mean we're not going to approve minutes?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
not on the
thank you.
agenda. It's a discussion about minutes only,
Okay.
in the most general sense, not
Oh, in
specific.
the most general, not specific.
That's
months.
correct. All right, we have a
Okay.
motion and the motion is seconded. Call the question. All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Jenkins, you want to take the roll or?
Jim,
Dan.
you're muted. Jim, you're muted.
I have to get muted again.
Tim,
I'm
you are
sorry.
not Tim, you were fine. Jim Jenkins, you
Jim.
are muted. Yeah.
Mr. Jenkins. All right, I'll ask Mr. Dill, would you mind calling the roll on the vote?
Sure. Paul,
Present.
Roberta,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
this is Ken. I vote aye. Jim, you unmuted?
I'm unmuted. I
Great,
vote
thank you.
aye.
Thank you.
Right,
Unanimous.
the motion's carried and the agenda is approved as stated. President's announcements, I don't have any. Item number 2, reports, the president's report. I'm giving you just really a report of the planning commission at the last town council meeting, and I spoke for 1 minute and just relayed the what happened briefly at the last planning commission meeting, and that was it. One item of business that affects us came before the the town council, and that's the fence proposed fence ordinance, and we're going to talk about that later in new business. So that's the end of my report. For new business, topic A, minutes. I'd like to talk to you all about minutes in general and where we find ourselves now with the current minutes of the planning committee. We have minutes that go back to February that are proposed for approval, and they have yet to be brought before the committee. And so I kind of want to explain why, but first I want to thank Roberta sincerely for all the work that she's done in the minutes. It's a very difficult task to compile them, and I do appreciate her work. The minutes, approval of the minutes should be a short and simple exercise. It shouldn't take much work from us at all under normal circumstances, but these are not normal circumstances. We find ourselves as a committee at odds with one another of significantly different opinions about how to conduct business and whether to maybe who should be conducting it. So that I think it's fair to say that our committee, at least from my point of view, and I'm not going to speak for all the rest of you, that we disagree a lot. And so under these circumstances, I, as the president, want to ensure that the minutes are completely accurate and devoid of any political contact, rhetoric, or interpretation. And the minutes as described by the West Virginia Ethics Commission, the idea behind the minutes is that they be a record of what was done and not what was said. What was done and not what was said. And that means that if you were, imagine for yourself that you were the secretary and that you had to take minutes of a meeting that lasted an hour and a half, you'd have to go through and listen to the meeting and determine, you can't put everything in there. So you're going to select things to put in and things not to put in. And if you select something to put in, you also have to select how to characterize it. And so there's a lot of interpretation involved in taking minutes if you're going to interpret. And I think the idea behind having minutes that are devoid of interpretation is precisely that you avoid having to make judgments about who said what for what reasons. And so if you have a bland completely bland record of what was said, what was done, that does not enter into the question, the people's motives and how to characterize it. And so it's with that in mind that I have not brought forth the minutes to you for approval. And the reason is as follows. The minutes contain numerous inaccuracies, many of them, as well as a lot of interpretation. So imagine how this would work. If I brought just one set of minutes before you and we were to decide whether to approve, I would be going over the minutes line by line. Line by line. It would take forever because I would feel that there would be many lines that should not be included. Now, you might overrule me or this, that, and the other thing. But in order to avoid that, what I was hoping was that the secretary and myself could come to some understanding of a pared down version of the minutes that we could bring before the committee, and that we would not be spending hours and hours going over and discussing whether we should include what somebody said or how they said it, that kind of thing. That was my idea in presenting the minutes, and I'm the president. I'm responsible for them, and I'm not going to let minutes that are inaccurate or that contain interpretation go forward. I'm not going to let that happen on my watch. Another president might, but I'm not. So if now that was my goal. Now, it's been said that, well, the public needs to know, and I agree. The public needs to know, but the situation is not dire because there is a record of the entire meeting. All these meetings are on record. So if a person was interested in finding out who said what when, they could go and watch the meeting or listen to it. So we have not lost anything by, I don't think we've lost anything by having the minutes held up as we are. Now, do we want that forever? No. But the minutes have to, again, reflect what was done and not what was said. And the minutes as presented to me do not do that. And that's why I've kept them from appearing for approval. Now, I could do that. I prefer that the secretary and I meet so that we could change them. So what we brought to you wouldn't have that much to change, and I've made efforts on that part, but we haven't been able to get together. So that's really all I have to say about it. That's the reason why the minutes are not on the agenda for approval tonight. And so I've said what I've said, and now if you would like to respond, please do.
Ms. Roberta Meade Curry has her hand raised.
Okay, the chair recognizes Secretary Curry. The chair recognizes Secretary Curry.
Thank you, President Weiscarver. Roberta Meade Curry, Secretary of the Harpers Ferry Planning Commission. I too, as Secretary, am responsible for the meeting minutes and the record. And that is why it is imperative that I have done what I need to do. I've done the corrections that all of you have asked and sent me over a period of time. I've corrected everything in the meeting minutes that reflect what was done, not what was said. And I've gone through the checklists for the town, for the West Virginia Code, and also the Open Meetings Act. And I have felt I have made the revisions necessary, and that is why I have sent them to you prior to this meeting with a set of documents that I feel meet all those criteria. So I do need to correct that the meeting minutes for January, February, and March of 2021 have been approved by this planning commission. And I have asked Kevin Carden, the recorder, the town clerk, and also the office administrator, and most recently Mayor Vaughn, to make sure that these meeting minutes are posted on the website because they have been approved by this committee. If we do need to make corrections still to those meeting minutes, then we need to do so as an agenda item and put in motions to make that happen. I would like to suggest to this planning committee and have a workshop with all members in attendance, because I have not received any other comments from other planning commission members that the meetings are wrong from the last set of meeting minutes I sent in September. I believe that was September 13th. And I asked for them to be posted on September 15th, which was also denied. So we had a discussion in one of our last meetings that the draft meeting minutes would be posted on the town website. Can you hear me? Because I think I'm losing connection. Can you all,
Yes.
you can also hear me? Okay. All right. Thank you. So we had agreed in one of our last meetings that I could post the draft meeting minutes on the town website. So again, you could all look at them and give me your comments. At the same time, I also emailed them to you. So again, I am not receiving any information that the meeting minutes need to be corrected at this point. So I would like to make a motion to
I'm sorry, your motion's out of
okay,
order. I'm
okay,
sorry, your motion, excuse me.
understand.
The motion is out of order now. Okay, we're having a discussion. There's no room
Okay.
for motion. So
Okay, so let me finish.
I'm gonna overrule that. There's
Okay,
no motion. Okay, we're talking. we're
understand,
not
sir.
moving anything.
My
I'm
apologies.
sorry. So when
My
you're finished-
apologies.
Yes.
No,
thank
I'm
you.
not finished, sir. May I ask
Okay.
one more thing?
Of course.
I would like for this commission to plan for a workshop to explicitly discuss the meeting minutes. And that workshop can be scheduled as a special meeting. And we need to get this taken care of. It is becoming critical, and that is what I would prefer. Thank you, that all commissioners have the ability to say what goes on the meeting minutes. Thank you.
Mr. George Owens has his hand raised.
Mr. Owens, chair recognizes Mr. Owens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wisecarver. I want to agree with you, Mr. Wisecarver, about the need for taking out editorialization and also points of view. Whether we do agree or disagree, these are public records that need to state factually what goes on. And I think the difficulty that we're presented with is that much of what we do is in fact speech. We're verbal, and I think that Roberta has, she's talked with me about this, and I've been an English teacher for 20 years. We've spoken about how to scrub, editorialization out of verbs and such. And I want to give an example of where that's been done and effectively. I'm going to quote the draft of the April 21st meetings. And, Ms. Huddle showed up then, and she discharged her responsibility with regard to an agenda item. I think it's important that she be acknowledged and be described of what she did in discharging the responsibility. The language here is that C. Huddle, and I'm quoting from Roberta's revised draft, explained the revisions of the tree plan status, comma, that they're posted on the website, and reasons for changes. Now, that is indeed, like you said, Tim, talking about what somebody said. On the other hand, it acknowledges that she came forward in the meeting and discharged her responsibility. And I liked the absence of editorialization there. Explained the revisions, no editorial there, that they're posted, very good, and gave reasons for the changes. Notice it doesn't promote her reasons, doesn't elucidate, number them, and I think perhaps if we had a workshop, we could all get comfortable with this. And I think, to tell you the truth, everybody in this board here, I think getting comfortable with each other is our main job. And so that's my 2 cents. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, I have something to say back. That I find the minutes as presented unacceptable. That there is way too much verbiage. And I think that the minutes should be bland, completely bland, and reflect what is done. Now, I've called the Ethics Commission, the attorneys at the Ethics Commission in West Virginia, to speak with them about this very subject, about the minutes, about what they should do. I spoke to the woman who gave the workshop that you attended on minutes. And she says that there should not be the verbiage that's included. And I'm going to share my screen and show you an example of the minutes that are on the website, just to give you a sense of, these are minutes from the West Virginia Ethics Commission. All right, for a rather lengthy meeting. I'm going to see if this works. I don't know if it was. I'm going to try and share my screen so that you can see this. I think I have to turn myself on here, and I'm going to try and share my screen, and let's see how I do.
So far, so good. You got your screen share going. There you go. Okay.
All right, now this is on the website of the West Virginia Ethics Commission and is the minutes of their meeting on May 7th, 2020. Okay, so all I'm going to do is can you all see this? Can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll down just to show you what it is. Okay. There they are. There is nothing, they resemble in no way the minutes that are presented for our adoption. They're the bare bones. And that's the way the minutes should be. And we don't need a workshop on them. We need that the minutes reflect merely what is said. That's it. Excuse me, just the reverse. Merely what is done, not what is said, period. And I see my job as insisting that be the case, that they be completely error-free and have no comment or other than what was done. If you are interested in finding out what was said, anybody can consult the video of the meeting and can go and find out what somebody said or what they thought or what they opined. So the minutes should be extremely bland and uninteresting. And they are the factual record of the proceedings of this committee. And as such, they must be error-free and devoid of any kind of political thought or rhetoric or interpretation. And I'm going to insist on that. Now, I may be overruled, you may overrule me, but as long as I'm president, I'm not letting any minutes go forward that don't comport with the criteria. And I'm very sorry that you spent so much time on them.
We lost Tim.
Yeah, we lost you a little bit there, Mr. Weiscarver. Can you hear us, Mr. Weiscarver? Yeah, I think you could still turn your video off, Tim, and we can still see the share screen. Could you try that? Let's see, Tim, can you hear us? Tim Weiscarver, can you hear us? Okay, there we go. Let's try again. Can you hear us, Tim?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I turned my screen off.
Good. Okay, that's much
Okay,
better.
so I see a bunch of hands.
Yeah. So we've
and,
got.
Who was first?
Yep. Okay, so we got Mr. Dill, Mr. Roberta Mead Curry, and then Mr. Owens, and then Mr. Jenkins.
Okay, so let's, Mr. Dill, the chair recognizes Mr. Dill.
Thank you, Tim. This is Ken. I would like to say that I reviewed all the draft minutes from April through August that were provided, and I think it's a good level of detail. I support having a level of detail. I agree that what is essential is much less than that, just to record the motions and how people voted. But I think having that extra level of detail is helpful for the process, helpful for our community, might get more community involvement, more engagement with people. So I think it'd be good for Harpers Ferry going forward. We don't need to do it all the time. If the planning commission in the future doesn't have somebody who wants to put that level of effort into it, that's fine. But I think we should take advantage of the fact that we have somebody now who's willing to do that. That's all. Thanks.
The next was Mr. Roberta Mead Curry. The chair recognizes Mr. Roberta Mead Curry.
Yes, thank you, President Weiscarver, Roberta Mead Curry. I'm going to ask several questions, sir, and if you want me to do them one at a time and you come back to me, then I will certainly do it per that format. Is that what you would like?
All right.
You want me to ask one question at a time, go to the next person
Sure.
and come back to me?
Are you asking me or?
Yes, sir. I'm asking you, the presiding officer.
Sure, you may.
Okay, I can ask one question at a time.
Well, yeah, because I'm going to answer. If you ask a question, then I should be able to answer it. So ask your question, Ms. Secretary Curry.
And then come back to me because I have several questions.
Okay.
The format that you're showing is an example on the website. That is correct. However, Town of Harpers Ferry has adopted the format we are using. Can you still hear me? I'm getting
Yes, I can still hear you. Do you have a question?
Okay.
And
Yes.
please ask your
Yes,
question
sir.
and not make statements. What's your question?
I would appreciate respect, sir.
I'm respecting you. I'm just trying to get you to ask your question, if you would, please.
Yes, I'm giving a preface to my question.
All right. Please ask your question.
The Town of Harpers Ferry has adopted a meeting minute format that we are to follow. Are you asking that we do not follow the standard format for our meetings?
It seems that there's two questions there. There's a statement about that there's a general Harpers Ferry format. So I'm not sure why that's relevant, but I mean, I couldn't be clearer that there, as far as I'm concerned, and this to you, Mr. Dill, you may think that those minutes are perfectly okay. I do not. And I can go over the minutes and explain why I do not. But, and if they come before this committee in that form, that's exactly what I will do. Because I will, when we go to approve the meetings, I will object to the places that I feel that that should be objected to. And we can do that. If you'd like to do that, if you'd like to take a set of minutes and bring them before this committee, then we will go over them line by line. And and vote on every single line. Because I'm not going to, at least on my watch, let them go forward as they are. Now, maybe you can overrule me and say that's fine, but we're going to go over them line by line. We could do that. It'll be interminable, but we could do that. All right, what's your second? Do you have another question, Ms. Roberta Mead Curry?
Yes,
You're
sir,
mute,
but
Ms. Curry.
yes, sir, thank
I
you.
answered your question. Do you have another question, or can we go on to Mr. No, Mr. Jenkins?
I do, are you recognizing me, sir?
Yes, the chair recognizes you. You wanted to ask me a question.
Yes, sir, I don't feel you answered the question, number one.
Okay,
We
well,
have
I feel like I did answer it. Okay, do you have another question?
Yes, sir, would you like to go to the other members of the committee and come back to me? I'm trying to be fair to have everyone talk, please.
All right, I will do that. I guess next was Mr.
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 Owens,
Jenkins. Did you have your hand up, Mr. Jenkins?
Mr. Owens, and then Mr. Jenkins.
I'm sorry, Mr. Owens. The chair recognizes Mr. Owens.
Yes, I'd like to try and get us into a middle ground here, because this is, when you're talking about people's writing styles, no one's ever going to write exactly the same. And I know you're talking about general principles that you adhere to, but in the brief scrolling that you gave of that document, and that was one person, by the way, who wrote that document. I'm sure there are others that vary slightly. It did jump out at me that Mr. X, I didn't have time to see the person's name, called upon was the verb. I'm looking at one from the same document I saw of Roberta's, and she has G. Owens requested. Now, those are both very general, unopinionated verbs,
I disagree. I think the request is.
Sir, let me say here,
Sure.
I'm background in English here. I don't want to step on the math department, but called upon, requested. I really think that maybe we in this committee can be magnanimous enough to overlook whatever fine semantic differences there are. Of course, there are no such a thing as synonyms in the world, by the way, it's a fact. But unless we want to have some list of approved verbs, I think those are close enough, And I really would like to have you, Mr. Wisecarver, propose to us some way of finding a middle ground here. That's what I'd like to propose. I don't think we should vote line by line on things. I don't think we should contest them. I think we should all make this as smooth as possible. But
Well,
I'd really like to
think the way
find
to
some
make
way
it is smooth.
to get a middle ground. Thank you very much.
I think the way to make it as smooth as possible is to make the minutes completely bland, and without any sort of view whatsoever. The record of the meeting is, as we're speaking now, is being recorded. So if somebody is interested in finding out what somebody said exactly, or whether they requested it, or whether they asked a question, or however it was, they can go to the minutes themselves. I think that Robert's Rules of Order, the exact reason for record what is done, not what is said, is precisely this. So you do not have to get into interpretive modes. Yes, each secretary takes minutes differently. I acknowledge that. But our committee is of such a nature that there is a lot of acrimony on this committee. And so I do not want I want to remove the possibility of that appearing in the minutes in any way, the minutes being shaped completely. And I'm not changing that position. If we bring the minutes before the entire committee, I don't want to do that until they're materially changed. I'll change them, I'll edit them. I don't like to do that, but I can. And maybe that's the answer, but I feel there is not a middle ground between between beyond reporting what was done.
I think a middle ground between called upon and requested. I mean, come on, Tim.
That we're not hinging it, George, on called upon or requested. And please raise your hand if you want to be recognized. Thank you.
Pardon me, sir.
Okay,
Mr.
right.
Mr. Jenkins
Okay,
was
Mr.
the next
Jenkins,
with his hand up,
you're
and then
recognized.
Miss Roberta Me Curry has her hand raised again.
Mr. Jenkins, you're muted. Mr. Jenkins, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Chair recognizes you, Mr. Jenkins.
Members of the commission, this body is the most adversarial group of people I've ever worked with in my 72 years on this. One faction is trying to gain an advantage over the other faction by minutes, by agenda challenges. It's now 7:38. We haven't done one item of business for the town. I'd like to refer back to the presentation by the tree committee a few meetings back. Very logical, very coherent, good for the town. A lot of people, I think, voted against proposals by the tree committee because they wanted to be oppositional. There's no virtue in being oppositional. We need to be working together for the good of the town.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Chair recognizes Ms. Roberta Me Curry.
Thank you, President Wise Carver, and I will respond to Jim's comments in open discussion section, please. So if I don't see any other hands raised, so would you mind if I go through the rest of my questions, please?
Yes. Can we step it up a little bit? Because we do have some business to transact. This was, well, go ahead.
Question number 2.
Yes.
Can President Wise Carver.
I can't, you're breaking up there, Secretary Curry.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Roberta, sorry to interrupt, Roberta. If you could turn off your video while you're speaking, that might help.
Okay. Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Question number 2. President Wise Carver, can you show us examples of what you mean by rhetoric? Can you show that and share?
Indeed, I can. It's very easy. I can pick any minutes. I don't want to call it rhetoric. I'll just call it interpretive discourse, interpretive writing. I'll pick any group of meetings that you want. The most recent one I could do, and for example, the most recent meeting, the August 17th minute, the entire first page of the meeting should be deleted. It happened before the meeting, it's irrelevant. That's only one example of many.
Okay, I'll defend that.
I answered your question. Do you have another question?
Okay, I need to defend that if you'll let me to have a rebuttal, please.
No, I don't. That's exactly what we don't want to do,
Okay.
Ms. Curry, is get into the nitty gritty of the minutes. Now,
Okay.
I'm just simply, I'd be glad to explain to you, if I could meet with you, why I'm doing that. Okay, why I'm going to insist on that. I'd be glad to explain that to you. I'd be glad to submit to you for your consideration the August 17th meetings as I see they should be presented. I'd be glad to show you that. I'd be glad to take a red pen and go through and cross out what I think should not be included in those minutes. I'd be perfectly happy to do that. What I was hoping was that you would do that. And to spare us the problem of having to deal with the minutes one by one when the president, at least, thinks they're unacceptable in the form that you sent them. And it's not just a verb here or a verb there. They're fundamentally wrong. That is, they should not come out of our committee. They should be bland, completely bland, just what was done. For example, let me give you an example. let's say that you wanted to talk about the report that I gave to you about the town council. Well, you have to edit, you have to decide what in that, in what I said to you to put in there. It seems to me if you're going to stick to the spirit, you would just say that the president gave a report, period, end of story. Not what he reported on, not what you think he said, but he reported on it. But even that, I think is stretching it, but it's that kind of thing.
May I ask question number 3, please?
Yes, the chair recognizes Ms. Curry.
Can you give us an example? Again, I could ask for examples, but here's what I think is best. May I suggest that the president, myself, and since we have a member of the commission that is very well versed in English, Commissioner George Owen, sit in a workshop with us 3 or a meeting, and we go over each of the meeting minutes and we come to some kind of agreement on the red lines for these meeting minutes.
Well, the answer to that is a no. I think that although Mr. Owens is a man of unsurpassing eloquence and learning, that I am perfectly capable of determining what should be in and what shouldn't, and I can communicate that to you. And we don't need, I mean, if you feel that you can't do these minutes or that I've altered them in such a way that when I do that you don't want to put your name to them, well, that's all right. Then we'll move on. But I've looked at these minutes and I've read them and I've listened to the meetings and they are unacceptable. And that's because the times we're in. I want anything that comes out of this committee to be the blandest of bland. And I gave you an example of the ethics committee meetings, and you can see that there's nothing, anything remotely like what you're presenting to us, Ms. Curry. Okay, do you have any other questions?
I believe Mr. Jenkins is raising his hand.
Chair recognizes Mr. Jenkins.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Again, I am quite sad that it's 7:45 p.m. We've been in this meeting for 3/4 of an hour. We haven't done one iota of good for the town of Harpers Ferry. Appears to me there is a concerted effort to make it very difficult for Mr. Weiscarver to conduct a meeting. A concerted effort to make it very difficult for the planning commission to benefit the town of Harpers Ferry. We're factionalized.
We've lost you, Mr. Jenkins.
You muted yourself there. Yeah, we're losing your connection, Mr. There you go. Okay, try again.
We lost you there for a minute, Mr. Jenkins.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Again, I go back to the tree committee. A completely logical, completely coherent, completely error-filled effort voted against by members of this committee simply because I believe they.
Sir, I'm so sorry. Your mute button just keeps engaging.
Jim, you're mute. You're on mute again.
Yeah. I think if you could keep your video off, Jim, I think it might help. We just seem to be having that round the table with that.
Yeah, Ken's suggestion of turning your video off and speaking. Try that,
Yeah.
Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you.
Okay, stand by.
There
Go
you
to
go.
somebody
There's no
else.
video. But I'm not hearing anything now. Are you?
So are you there, Mr. Jenkins?
I'm here.
Great. Okay, that's good. So
Did you finish?
No, I'm not finished.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Jenkins.
Again, I repeat, it's 7:47 p.m. We've been in session for 47 minutes. We have not.
I don't know why his mute keeps engaging.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Jim, we're not hearing you.
Stand by, please.
Okay, there we go. We're hearing you. You keep going in and out.
Okay, I'm exasperated. We have a dysfunctional commission. We have such factionalizations, we cannot do anything. And I feel like that there's an effort to not have any cohesion by members of this commission.
Well, thank you. I think we should move on. We still have discussion on the business, and at least at that part, I have a suggestion about how we might deal with it with the minutes, so maybe I can make that at that time, and we can move on. So I'm going to end the discussion on minutes and go to item B, which is the Keel application and the email that was sent by the ordinance control officer to the effect that the fence has been, I want to say withdrawn, but that's not the right word, has been taken down. So I'm just reporting that to you, that the ordinance control officer has said that there's no more, was it a fence? Yes. So that item is closed. How that happened, I don't know. That's a report. Okay, so on to item B, and this may take some time. The mayor has sent a letter to Landmarks and the Planning Commission with the draft of a fence ordinance. And he wants us very specifically to look at, it's an ordinance about fences in the town of Harpers Ferry, and it's a draft, and he wants us to look at it and answer this question as advice. Does the Planning Commission have a concern or about its place in this matter? In other words, are we okay with how the Planning Commission is, I'm struggling for the right word, is or is not part of the ordinance as stated? To which my answer would be, yeah, we don't have any problem, but then I'm not experienced in fence ordinances. And so I'm going to open it up for discussion. And again, the idea is not to get in there in the weeds in the ordinance. It's not to get in the weeds in the ordinance, but it's to just, has there been enough attention paid to what the Planning Commission's part in the fence ordinance is? And we are to advise him, not, just what do we think? And so I'm going to turn it over to you and ask what you all think. So we are hopefully can come up with something to say back to the mayor about the fence ordinance with regard to what the Planning Commission sees as its role in this.
Okay, we have some hands raised, Ms. Roberta Mead Curry and Mr. George
The chair
Owens.
recognizes Roberta Mead Curry, Secretary Curry.
Thank you, President Weiscarver, Roberta Mead Curry. I do have some suggestions on maybe how we should help the mayor in this effort. This is a new ordinance, and we have to make sure it's in compliance and consistent with our comprehensive plan and also any other parts of the town ordinances. Typically, when a new code is presented, a series of workshops is conducted. I suggest that you would have a series of workshops with various town council members, if not all of them, various members of the Planning Commission, if not all of them, and the Landmarks Commission, and any other commission that you feel is important to be there at this workshop. But we need a series of workshops to understand what the process is to develop this code, this ordinance, and as we go through this, you would need to have public comment at the end of it all. And we'd have to set up a series of public meetings. So the Planning Commission is highly responsible for the town environs, as we discussed, one of our responsibilities. The Planning Commission should stay highly involved. And I suggest a series of workshops with various commissions and parties that are interested, with the end result having public meetings to approve, to receive comments from the public before a final draft is written of this ordinance. Thank you.
And Mr. Owens, and then I think Mr. Jenkins is raising his hand.
Mr. Owens, the chair recognizes Mr. Owens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiscarver. I have a question for you. I'm working from, with regard to Mr. Vaughn's request, Mayor Vaughn's request, I'm working from a copy of the email sent that was provided in our package, our attachments for this meeting tonight. And if that's what we're working from, I'm confused. I understand that it's important, as you stated, to determine the Planning Commission's role. But when I read this here, this is a 9-line email. It says on line 6, I certainly don't have all the answers, but he's referring to his draft, is a start. And then he says, please discuss and offer suggested changes from your combined perspectives. So am I misunderstanding his request here? Because it seems once again, I'm attention to the verbs. It says, please discuss.
I think I can explain something because I spoke to the mayor directly.
Okay, thank you.
And we are in no way responsible for making this ordinance. Okay, or checking that it is legal or anything like that. We are not responsible for crafting this ordinance. The responsibility is with the town council.
Sure.
They are consulting both the Historic Landmarks Committee and our committee to simply ask a very simple question. No workshops, none of this, none of this. They are asking, in effect, what do you think as Planning Commission, what's your role in this matter? That is, do you feel that as the ordinance as stated is somehow
within our
have we
purview?
missed something where the Planning Commission is responsible for and we haven't put it in there, something like along those lines? And that's what they're asking. They're not asking us to write the ordinance, to conduct workshops or anything like that. And let me make one other point.
Sure.
If our Planning Commission were composed of members with a lot of experience, and this is no criticism of any member on this committee. For example, if we had Nancy K. Singleton here, or if we had the previous president of the Planning Commission, or other Steve Ramberg, or people who had served for a long period of time and had institutional memory, they would be able to answer that question because they're very experienced. We aren't. And so we have no, as far as I can see, we have nobody like that to say, well, you know, the best thing is X, Y, and Z. And that's why probably that we, Anita Hale is the person I was struggling for, who was the president.
Sure.
We have very little experience Planning Commission members on this committee. That's why we're maybe struggling to answer it. But I feel like, yeah.
So could you answer my question directly?
Just a minute.
Sure.
I'm not done. Okay.
Okay, sure.
All right. And I want to ask Deb if somebody else was after that.
Yes, after George was Mr. Jenkins, and then also Miss Roberta Mead Curry has her
Okay,
hand up.
Mr. Chair recognizes Mr. Jenkins.
Oh, that was that.
You're muted, Jim. Mr. Jenkins, you're muted. Turn your screen off, Mr. Jenkins. Try turning your screen off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, try turning your video off.
It's done. Can you hear me now?
Yes, but try turning your video off.
I don't think I need to do that. It's okay.
Oh, okay, all right, go ahead.
We do not write ordinances. Town council has ordinance writing capability and responsibility in this town. Mayor Vaughn is a very competent, fine mayor. He asked input from the planning commission. He did not ask permission from the planning commission. We do not need a series of workshops. We do not need a series of meetings to write an ordinance about fences. I feel that we're trying to get into the weeds and be obstructionists so that we cannot accomplish anything and will look to be an embarrassment to the town. As it is right now, it is 7:58. We've been in session for almost an hour and we have accomplished virtually nothing. And this is normal. This is normal and this is not right. That's all I have to say.
Okay, next was, thank you, Mr. Who was after, was it Mr. Owens or Ms.?
No,
Roberta
Miss
Mead Curry?
Roberta Mead Curry.
The chair recognizes Roberta Mead Curry.
Thank you, President Wise, Roberta Curry.
Roberta, why don't you turn your video off?
I really want to be seen. So let me know when you can't hear me.
I can't hear you.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
muted.
Testing, 1.
You're muted, Roberta.
Doesn't
You're
show
muted, Ms.
muted on
Curry.
my screen.
I can't
Okay.
hear you, Ms. Curry. You're muted. You're muted, Ms. Curry.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I would like this planning commission, yes, we are all new, but in no shape and form are we trying to obstruct anything. We are trying to conduct the town's business in a very orderly and diplomatic way. And I do have experience writing code. I do have experience when you are changing a code and you're offering a text amendment. I have 35 years experience in this industry, and I am not trying to obstruct anything, Mr. Jenkins. I am trying to allow you and understand and help this planning commission be a planning commission. We are responsible for planning the future needs of this town, and a series of workshops is the correct way to go about doing a text amendment, changing ordinances. I am not saying that this planning commission writes the ordinance, but we have a strong concern that we have to vet it against the comprehensive plan. We have to vet it against our own ordinances, all sections that might reference or conflict with this new fence ordinance. We work in partnership with other commissions, the Landmarks Commission, the Ordinance Committee, the mayor, town council. I am asking, begging, and trying to work together with everyone on this planning commission and everyone on town council and everyone in every single commission in this town. That is my background. That is my experience. I am no way thwarting, obstructing anything. And I certainly do not appreciate any reference to that because you borderline again, publicly defaming me in a public realm. And I wish for it to cease from all parties. Thank you.
Well, I think that you should cease as well and not accuse somebody of defaming you. That's the same thing. We don't want to get into name calling here. You stated your opinion. I was hoping that we could take something to the town council like an opinion to the effect that yes, we cannot write this ordinance. The town council is writing this ordinance, period. They're asking our advice. They're not asking what to do. They are in charge of it. They are primus inter pares. We are underneath them. We are not working with the Landmarks Commission or the BZA. That's not our job. But in any case, it feels to me like we can't tell the mayor much of anything. That we are in terms of advice. I do not want the advice. I would be against what offering the advice that you had, Secretary Curry, as I'm probably sure you would be against the advice that I'm offering. But that's what we're here for advice. And if we can't come up to a sort of common thing that we'd like to say back to the mayor, then we should go on and get to the next part of the agenda. All right, I see, Roberta, your hand is up, but I'm not going to recognize you because it's permanently up. I think it's,
Well, I do think,
Roberta Me Curry, could you lower your hand?
Mr. Weiscarver,
Okay,
I had, Mr. Weiscarver, this is Debbie. I had lowered her hand and she raised it again. And then Mr. Owens also has his hand up.
Right, Mr. Owens is first. All right, Mr. Chair recognizes Mr. Owens.
This is a point of clarification, Mr. Weiscarver. You talked about giving an opinion or something from this commission to the mayor. As I'm reading your agenda, this item is for discussion, and it doesn't say discussion and action. So I don't think we can, as the agenda is written, actually take a vote or on any recommendation to the mayor. And I'd like to do that, but I'd like to ask you to put that on the next meeting's agenda so that we can do it, okay? And I too want to get something accomplished, I do, okay?
Okay, I agree that we can't take a vote on it, but we could, if we so choose, we could offer, hey, this is what we think, but obviously we cannot. We cannot come to any kind of agreement about that one way or the other. So I presume that we'll end it, and that on the next agenda, that will put the discussion in action for recommendation to the town council regarding the fence ordinance on the next meeting. Now that's not, we're not voting on that, but that's, I essentially agree with you. That we're not, there's not going to be a motion in a second on what to send up there. I never intended it that way.
Sure.
Okay, is there anybody else? Can we go on, or Chair recognizes Roberta Meade Curry?
Again, thank you, President Weiscarver. Again, the workshops. Can you hear me? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
No. I can't hear you.
I'm able to hear her. Anyway, Ken, he's good. Anybody
Can
else?
everyone hear me?
I can now.
Okay, again, I think we can all brainstorm. A brainstorming session is like a workshop session. And if we all have comments that we'd like to make on this fence ordinance, then that's where we make it. That's how commissions work. In a workshop brainstorming session, we all come together, we all put our opinions on the table, we all get it in an orderly fashion, and we present it to the mayor. And that's how things are done. And I would suggest if we take the time to do that, I think maybe we can all see how cool we can all work together and how much brainstorming and cool suggestions we can come up with on how to make Harpers Ferry a better town and get this ordinance back to the mayor as quickly as possible.
Well, thank you. Well, we're not getting anything back to him, I guess. However, I mean, one thing that we could do that occurs to me is each of us answer the mayor's question, and we can send our answers back to him and say that we're divided. We could do that. And maybe that we can't do it tonight, but we could do it next week. We could do that, because we're not going to come up with a sort of general agreement as to what we should say to the mayor. Maybe perhaps we individually answer that question, and move on to the next, for the next meeting. All right, so I'm going to end that agenda item and go to 4, which is discussion and other business. This is where we talk about things that are of concern to people. And I ask that we respect one another, no name calling, no accusations, no speeches. Let's see if we can keep the rhetoric way down. So we're at item discussion and other business. Well, I'll say one thing that I was thinking about. I'm willing to or I propose that Ms. Mead Curry and me meet, and we'll just take one agenda at one for the first time, just the August 17th meeting, and I'll make the marks that I want to make on it, and we meet together and see if we can work it out so that we can bring something to the committee that doesn't require us to spend a whole lot of time on it.
Mhm.
Would you be willing to do that, Secretary Curry? Would you like to try that?
I can do it virtually. I'm traveling out of town and I can certainly, we can set up a separate Zoom, I guess. And if you send me your red lines, we can go over them point by point.
Is there any time that you'll be in town in the next month or so? I'd rather meet personally as opposed to Zoom. I don't like that, but
Okay, I can call you and let you know when I'm back in town and we can set something up, sir.
okay, all right. You have my phone number? Yeah, let's see if we can get it done.
I see no hands raised, Mr.
Okay. Is somebody talking? All right, we've reached the end of the agenda. Adjournment. Is there a move to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, wait, I'm not sure, but I think maybe Mr. Jenkins has his hand raised. The video's a little crooked.
I'm sorry, I didn't see any hand raised. So I won't, I'll rescind that. Mr. Jenkins, did you have your hand raised? Did you want to say something in the item 5?
You are
Mr.
muted,
Jenkins,
Mr.
you have to
Jenkins.
unmute yourself. Mr. Jenkins, you have to unmute yourself.
Your video is off, but you are still muted, Mr. Jenkins.
Mr. Jenkins, you're muted. Well, I'm not even sure that Mr. Jenkins wanted to say anything.
I'm not certain. It was just the screen was blurry there. Okay,
Okay,
so
Mr. Jenkins, did you want to say
Okay.
something?
I think this is the indication that he does, but you are still muted, Mr. Jenkins.
You're muted, Mr. Jenkins.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I would like for us to meet in person at the next commission meeting.
Well, that would be October. I'm not sure what it is. But I don't know how to think about that, frankly.
I think that would alleviate all the technical difficulties we've had tonight. And we could meet face to face. We could be more collegial, perhaps. And we could do the work of the town, perhaps.
from a technical standpoint, if you don't mind my jumping in, the commissions and the committees are allowed to make their own decision regarding whether or not they meet remotely or in person. And we can set up an iPad to record the meeting and live stream it to YouTube while you are meeting in the room. You have a group about the size of the council, so you could be side by side, but you also could be in a circle, and we could facilitate that for you if it is your desire. Mr. Mayhew has his hand raised.
Mr. Mayhew.
Thank you. I would just like to say that I would be more than happy to meet in person. I think that would go a long way towards helping us move things forward. Thank you.
Okay. I have a question to put to you. I'd be okay with meeting in person, but I want us to be masked.
I would agree with that.
Is that something that people, I don't want to force it on you, but I don't want to meet unless we would agree to that.
I would agree with that.
Agreed.
Mr. Dill, the chair, well, there's two hands up. Good. Mr. Dill, the chair recognizes Mr. Dill.
The only way I would attend if everybody is masked, certainly in that town hall space, but I would like to also reserve the option to not attend and to attend remotely.
And to what? Attend virtually?
Remotely, yes.
So you have a good many hands raised.
Okay.
Minus one of them. Roberta, George, and Mr. Mayhew, and then I also have my hand raised.
Okay. All right. Okay. Chair recognizes Secretary Curry.
Thank you, President Weiscarver, Roberta May Curry. I agree with Ken if we could leave it as an option also, but we also practice 6 foot separation and masking. 6 foot separation and masking, and to leave it open in case some of us are traveling for our work.
Sure. Okay, the chair recognizes the chair recognizes Mr. Mayhew. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayhew. Sorry, chair recognizes Mr. Mayhew.
Thank you. I just want to concur that I agree with the separation and the masking and look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The chair recognizes Ms. Kelly. Ms. Kelly.
So the only trick about the masking is that you do have some audio conveyance issues in that room with the masking sometimes. So as we work towards the next meeting, let me just see if I can do any more research on how we can make that a little bit better in that room. Your other hands up are Mr. Owens, and I think Mr. Jenkins was waving to speak as well.
Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Owens. Mr. Owens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiscarver. I would like Debbie, please, to research, if she can, if you wouldn't mind, how we would handle the issue of members of the public attending. Because I think it goes along with it.
Yeah, I can tell you that right now, the way that the town council has I won't call it the mandate, but the protocol that they've put forward is that members of the public are not coming into the room. If someone wanted to make public comment, we would set up a Zoomed computer, or like if somebody had to attend remotely, we would set up a Zoomed computer in the room. People in the room would be able to view the Zoom screen, and I would facilitate people coming in and out as attendees from the public to make them panelists when they wanted to speak. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense,
Okay.
Debbie.
Okay.
And the second question I have was also.
Okay, it's not your turn, Mr. Owens. Somebody else was ahead of you. Wait, one question at a time. Mr. Jenkins, chair recognizes Mr. Jenkins.
Briefly, I have one question of each commission member. Mrs. Roberta B. Kerr, are you vaccinated?
I'm sorry, you can't ask that question. It's a HIPAA policy. That's private medical information. You can't ask that question. Thank you.
If we're not all vaccinated, we should not meet.
If you can see
Well,
the
I don't know what to say about, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I really am puzzled. I guess I could say personally, I would not want to be in the same room with somebody that's vaccinated. On the other hand, I can understand why somebody doesn't want to say whether they are or not. So maybe that's just a deal breaker, period. And that we should end the discussion and until further notice, we'll have our meetings via Zoom. Unless somebody has I'm looking for the sense of the committee here as to what we should do. It looks to me like it's quite possible that 2 members won't be present in any case, and that some members are concerned about vaccinations, and we can't find out about that. And so maybe we should just can the whole thing and wait, postpone meeting in person and go via Zoom. So that's where I am right now. What
If
about the
we're
rest
not
of you?
all vaccinated, we should not meet.
Please
Mr.
wait. to
Owens
recognize.
has his hand up. Mr. Owens has his hand up.
Mr. Owens, Chair recognizes Mr.
Yeah.
Owens.
Thank you very much. Actually, this was to the point that was raised. I was again going to ask of Debbie or the appropriate party to find out what the legal guidance is on asking for proof of vaccination. I don't know myself. I know that some government agencies require it be shown. I don't know what the official policy is. And I think, as Mr. Jenkins points out, that's an issue that needs to be raised and decided upon.
Well, I don't think we should get into the business personally of demanding proof of whether any of us are vaccinated or not. That makes me very uncomfortable. It seems to me that if you can say, if you prefer not to say, or if you can say one way or the other, we take you at your word. But it feels to me like the vaccination part is enough that of enough concern that we just simply for the next meeting that we should not meet in person, and that we should continue via Zoom. That's the way I'm seeing the sense of the committee.
I agree.
So I'll leave it like that. Somebody violently objects. Okay, we've reached the end of the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
So
Is there a
moved.
second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, well, Mr. Jenkins, will you take the roll?
Mrs. Rhoda B. Curry,
Aye.
Mr. Dill,
Aye.
Mr. Owens,
Aye.
Carver, Mr. Weiss Carver,
Aye.
Mr. Mayhew,
Aye.
and Mr. Jenkins votes aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.